It's another MLS weekend kicking off on Saturday, and we have 13 games taking place on Saturday with one standalone match on Sunday. Let's kick things off with our first best bet of MLS Week 9 here. And that first pick is going to come from the New York City FC and FC Dallas game. Now, goals coming from both sides have been happening very frequently in NYC games this season. Both teams have found the back of the net in NYCFC games in 5 of 8 games and in each of their past 3. Now, dating back into last season, New York has scored a goal themselves in 12 of their past 14 games and in 16 straight at home. When it comes to FC Dallas, they're 6-2 when it comes to betting on both teams to score this season. They've also scored in 7 of their 8 games this year and in each of their past 7 as well. They're also coming off a 2-1 win last week. I think the play here is both teams to score. That's at minus 106 odds. Got that at bet 365. Next up, I'm going to do a 2-game parlay. And the first leg of that parlay is going to come in the Seattle Sounders versus Minnesota United game. Now, Seattle imploded last week, allowing 4 goals in 18 minutes to lose 4-1 in Portland after being ahead 1-0 early in the second half. But prior to that, they were flying, and they'll be looking to get back on track Saturday night at home. Seattle has only lost once in their past 11 home games, going 7-3-1, and outscoring their opponents 21-7 in those games. Now, they've also had 4 consecutive clean sheets in their past 4 home games. Now, Minnesota started the season strong, going undefeated in their first 2 games, but the last 2 weeks they've lost back-to-back 2-1 games, which have included giving up 2 goals to Orlando and Chicago, neither of which are known to be offensive juggernauts. Minnesota has managed to keep things tight at the back. They've only conceded 7 goals in 8 games, but they've also only scored 8 goals themselves this season. Now, Minnesota's only managed 19 shots on target this year, which is 27th in the league. And if they fall behind in Seattle, which I do expect they will do, I don't think they'll have the firepower to come back in this one. Seattle is 10-1-1 against the Loons all time, and I see that success continuing this week in MLS Week 9. So the first leg of this parlay will be a Seattle win, and the next leg will come from Charlotte and Columbus. Charlotte has seen both teams scoring in each of their past 5, and they've conceded in all 8 games this season, and also in each of their past 10 games if you go back into last season. Charlotte has allowed the 6th most shots this year with 107, and the most shots on target with 48 of any team in MLS through 8 weeks. Now, considering Columbus has the 4th most middle third touches, the 2nd most attacking third and penalty area touches, they're likely going to be buzzing around that Charlotte net all night, getting lots of scoring chances. The Crew are 9th in shots, 10th in shots on target, and they've scored the 2nd most goals in MLS with 18. Columbus has now scored in every game this season. They've also scored in each of their past 14 games and in 20 of 21 dating back into last season. Let's include a Crew goal for the second leg of this parlay to go with a Seattle win. And you can get plus 112 odds over at Caesars. Now we'll move into another parlay for our third best bet, and we're going to start it off with New England and Sporting Kansas City. Only 2 teams are still winless on the season. One of those teams is SKC. Only 1 team has scored fewer than 3 goals on the season, and that team is also Sporting Kansas City. The 2 goals SKC have scored this year after this many games is an all-time MLS low. All of this is bad news for SKC, and when you go back into last season, they're now winless in 9 games. Their road form has been particularly poor as they're winless in 11, and they have just 2 wins in their past 24 away games. The Revs have gotten off on the other end of the spectrum to their second best start to a season ever after 8 matches, and they're 5-2-1. Last week they went into Columbus, and they nearly came away with all 3 points, leading 1-0 until the Crew tied the game late in the 98th minute. Now, both teams are dealing with some injuries this week, but the Revs at home, I think they probably do win the game, but surely they will at least score a goal. So let's add a Revs to score as the first leg of this parlay. Moving into the second leg, we'll go to the Houston and Miami game. The Dynamo are 3-1-1 in their past 5, and in each of those 3 wins have come at home, and it's a place where they've scored 6 goals this season while conceding 0. Amin Bassi leads the team with 5 goals, and Hector Herrera with 2 goals will be returning from suspension this week. Now, Houston's actually scored in 10 of their past 11 games dating back into last season, and in 16 of 18 games, if you're looking at home games. Meanwhile, Miami comes off the bye, bringing a 5-game losing streak to Houston. Miami's conceded a goal on the road in 12 of their past 15 games. The 3 times they didn't allow a goal on the road, those games were against San Jose, DC, Toronto, all last season, and all 3 of the league's worst teams last season. I think Houston will find the back of the net here for the second leg of the parlay. Now, the third leg of this parlay, we're going to have to wait all the way until Sunday, as the only game taking place on Sunday is Atlanta and Chicago. and I think we have a play in that game. Atlanta is 5-3 to the over this season, while Chicago is 4-3 to the over. When it comes to over 1.5 goals, Atlanta is 7-1, Chicago is 5-2. Atlanta has seen both teams scoring in 6 of their 8 games, while Chicago has seen that bet hit in 5 of 7. Both teams seen their average goals per game in matches this year hit 3 or more. Atlanta's 3.5 goals per game is the second highest after St. Louis's 3.6. Now, it was 0-0 the last time these teams played last season, but in 10 of 12 all-time meetings, between them, we've seen at least 2 goals scored. No matter where the goals come from, I think we're going to see at least 2. So let's go over 1.5 goals here. So that parlay will be over 1.5 between Atlanta and Chicago, mixed with Houston to score and New England to score, and that will get minus 130 odds over at Caesars. Those are my MLS picks this weekend. Good luck with yours, and I hope we all make some money this weekend in the MLS.